Welcome back to Destination Pro Wrestling. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about the future of ROH because now there is some clarity on the situation after the entire roster has been released from contract. And my opinions are still the same. This is terrible for ROH, and this is ultimately bad for wrestling too. But now that we have a clear idea of what it's going to look like next year for ROH, I think you guys might be interested. Also, an ROH star has taken no time whatsoever to figure out his future, so we're going to talk about where he debuts next. Also, Bray Wyatt has dropped another tease. I'm going to explain all of the things behind it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Because of you, we're getting closer and closer to 30K subscribers, and I greatly appreciate it. So let's talk about the future of ROH. Ring of Honor. They dropped the craziest news I think I've ever seen since doing YouTube. They released everybody on their roster. I gave you guys my initial thoughts, and my belief is still the same. I think what they're doing is absolutely disastrous. I don't think they're ever going to come back from this, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to say that realistically, I just don't see it happening. Now, depending on when this video gets uploaded, it might be 24 hours later, I'm not sure, but basically, what's happening here is that ROH has decided that they're basically going to continue doing television, but they're not going to sign anybody to their roster. What they're essentially going to do is become a indie wrestling company again with a televised deal, obviously through Sinclair Broadcasting. Disastrous. And we're going to talk more about the indies later on in this video. And trust me, you guys don't want to miss my thoughts on that. But let's kind of get into the nitty gritty here. ROH not signing people to their roster. Some of the biggest names in their company are now free to sign anywhere, which, trust me, we already know some of them have destinations. But on top of that, ROH is not going to survive as an indie wrestling company. It's not going to happen. It just won't. I don't think... See, the thing is, ROH's plans are to go and do WrestleMania week in Dallas. And yeah, they'll probably draw a pretty decent show. But the point of ROH as an indie company, I just don't think it works out for them in the long run. Because indie wrestling right now really isn't, it's not really anything special. There's a few indie wrestling companies that are surviving through the pandemic, but that's pretty much it. So ROH is now in a predicament where they're not signing anybody. They're doing TV tapings. It's all pre-taped, right? And, I mean, this is a huge cost-cutting measurement, to be honest with you. I just don't think... ROH was already on its last legs. I don't think people are excited about ROH anymore. And I think this was the nail in the coffin. And I hate being negative about it, but that's just the reality of it. So much so, Bandido has already confirmed his future bookings coming to GCW. And that's why I want to talk about indie wrestling. I genuinely believe GCW is like the modern day ECW. In fact, without looking specifically at the numbers, I think it's fair to say that GCW probably surpassed Impact Wrestling and ROH in popularity. In fact, I would even go as far as saying as if GCW had a television deal right now, like weekly television, live TV, right? If GCW were able to make that happen, I guarantee GCW would do pretty damn well on television compared to AEW and WWE. No, they're not going to surpass WWE or AEW, but I look at GCW and what they're doing. GCW reminds me a lot of like WWE, but in the indie scene. Now GCW announced LA Fights, which is its sister promotion. GCW's taken over different territories. It's like GCW has control all over the indie scene, which is fantastic. I think that's great. I think it's good for GCW. Actually, I think it's a good thing for indie wrestling because GCW knows how to do business. So, here's the good thing. If GCW could bring in Bandido, who else can they bring in? In fact, we all saw the Briscoes just won the GCW World Tag Team Championship belts this past week. It's almost like the Briscoes knew that ROH was folding. So if ROH wants to become an indie wrestling show and not contract people, that's completely fine. But now you're not on par with Impact, AEW, or WWE. Because believe it or not, despite the viewership not being as strong, that's what they were compared to. And I already see GCW surpassing ROH. So at this point, would you rather watch ROH or would you rather watch GCW? Well, obviously that question is subjective because it's up to you based on your personal opinion and your personal interest. But when it comes to popularity, we know GCW is becoming popular. Again, I keep saying it's the modern day ECW. The fact that GCW doesn't do weekly television absolutely mind boggles me because there are television networks who would do the deathmatch wrestling. I think Vice TV would be one of them. I don't know if Access TV or Impact can come in and do some stuff with GCW, but I think it could be done. And it doesn't have to be this huge mainstream conglomerate. All it has to do is provide weekly television, keep bringing back your stars, bring back Mance Warner, bring back Nick Gage, bring back Ricky Shane, right? Ricky Page, RSP. Bring back these people. Bring in Bandido. Bring in the Briscoes. Now you're actually creating an alternative to pro wrestling, and that's even an alternative to WWE and AEW. All right, guys, in our final story of the day, Bray Wyatt has officially tweeted 2 more days. You might be wondering what this is in reference to, but it is officially, confirmed. Bray Wyatt's non-compete clause ends on the 29th. So, throughout all this time about Bray Wyatt going to AEW or going to WWE or ROH or Impact or whatever the rumors were at this point, well, we know that those rumors always had something to do with his non-compete being, foreclosed or whatever. But nonetheless, we know right now Bray Wyatt did fulfill his non-compete. Where will Bray Wyatt speak? Where will he talk? Because we know he's going to have a lot to say. And I think Chris Jericho's podcast is going to be the first one. Talk is Jericho. If Bray Wyatt ever wants to be on DPW, the invite is always there. But let's be honest, that's probably not going to happen. It'd be pretty cool. But Bray Wyatt, 2 more days, non-compete clause. Well, this tweet was put out, depending on when you're watching this, it was put out on the 27th, the 29th, just 2 days before Halloween. What else is on Friday? AEW Rampage, pre-taped, of course. Now, I didn't look at spoilers, but I'm going to say that AEW probably isn't going to have Bray Wyatt on Rampage. Not a big deal. I still stick to my word. I really, truly believe that Bray Wyatt shows up at Full Gear. That was the original thing I stated. Then we got a whole bunch of rumors and stuff that came in the way. But nonetheless, that's what I'm predicting. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe it does happen. But I am very, very curious to see what Bray Wyatt has to say. And we'll hear from him soon. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think of today's video. As always, I'm trying to bring you all types of wrestling. I try to put them all in one story. If you guys like this kind of format, you guys want me to cover more GCW, more indie, more things that aren't just WWE and AEW, let me know in the comment section down below. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on DPW.